Everyone, welcome back in my channel today. Hope you liked the previous 4 videos on the series of CSDM 4.0. So let's start with the discussion on the today's point, which we were discussing earlier, that is CSDM domain. And in the foundation domain, we have the next part, that is lifecycle and the other foundation data. So let's start the discussion now. So as per the topic, what we are doing now, we are on the life cycle. That how the life cycle of this particular foundation data has been maintained. Because as per ServiceNow, product, asset, contract, CI and location, everything has a life cycle. What ServiceNow says, how ServiceNow says is that these are the standard fields and the value for the lifecycle stages and the stages status. There are two different things which we have to be understand here. One is stage and one is stage status. Like in the request management, we have a stage called the fulfillment. And under that, maybe we have a state called the in progress. This is what we are going to be discuss in this particular part here. So what ServiceNow say that two components make a life cycle, the stage and the status. But the difference is that the stage in the life cycle process and the status in the life cycle stages. So the first part, that is stage, is the overall process perspective. Like as I say, in the request management, in service request management, or in service catalog management, we can say the stages are different and the status are different. When you club or when you join, or when we join these two together, it becomes the life cycle of a overall for a particular component. Okay. Now, if I say here that the life cycle stage represent the stage or the phase of an overall life cycle. A life cycle stage represents status of a step. So this is what we have to understand. Life cycle stage and the life cycle stage status. So these two terms are important to understand. You cannot, or we cannot replace these words, replace the terms with each other. So we have to be strict on what is stage and what is status on that part. Like in the CMDB, we have the operational status. Maybe it is unoperational, but in the unoperational, we can have a multiple states there or the status there. Not available, in transit, kind of things we can say here. So together, these two data elements make a life cycle completely. Now the question comes that is the life cycle of these components are similar for everybody, for every component? No. ServiceNow provide the different life cycles for the different I can say components here. I'm saying components because these are the different stuff available in ServiceNow. So like there's a product life cycle, there's a hardware life cycle, there's a logical life cycle, there's a document life cycle, and last there's a location life cycle. CSDM is not going to be what I can say, it's not new for the CSDM. It is already exists. But yes, if you are building your data model, then you have, or we have to be take care that the product or the life cycle should be followed completely. So for us, we are not going in the deep dive of all these life cycles, but on the overall we will see. So what is the product life cycle here? So product life cycle has a 4 stages: ideation, design, operational, and end of life. It means the first says that, let's say if I say the ideation, I'm picking up from the ITBM perspective. If you have an idea, from there the demand has been started. So ideation has a 2 status, 2 life cycle status I can say. It's a stage, it's a status. So in the ideation, under evaluation or the pilot, number 1. In the design, we have charted, we have designed, and we have built. In the operational, we have available, pending retirement, or end of the support, and at last end of the life, it's retired or obsolete. So now if you pick up any of the product, maybe let's say we can pick up the example of the ServiceNow only. So ServiceNow is a product form, if I can say. someone has a thought that let's build it. So that become the ideation. In the beginning, the founders, the developers did some evaluation and make it as a pilot model or the pilot product. Once this has been done, they started with the designing part. And if you see, you can go from ideation to the operational directly. Maybe it's a small product. So again, here I can say like ITL says it is a best practice. It doesn't mean that you should use as it is what I am giving to you. You can modify if you want to do that part. So in the same manner, you can go from ideation to operational, or you can go from ideation to design to operational and the end of the life. Because in the CSDM, product services are the main components on which it's the theory, the principles are in and around basically. So this is the first part. This is the first, I can say, the life cycle of the product. The second is basically is the hardware one. Hardware, like everybody know, like I'm talking specifically from the asset perspective here, because my server is a hardware for me, right? And when we say asset, it means that has some financial binding. This is the major difference between CI and the asset. Generally, what I found or what we found on the internet is says CI, which don't have a financial binding, practically don't, but logically yes, as per my experience, and asset have a completely financial bindings as well. So once you have a product, it is there, and when you purchase, there is a hardware life cycle. When you purchase either on the on order, it's a pre-allocated, it become hardware asset, and from there it go to the inventory, it go to the deploy, it go to the operational, and from in the operational we have a different cycles: defective, missing, or end of the life. I'm sure by seeing this you are easily able to relate that if my computer is a CI and computer is my asset as well, then in the computer asset part, I'm talking ALM asset table, if you go and you search for the computer as an asset, you will find these as the status, life cycle status, and the stages, I'll say. So in the inventory, it says that you can go back from operational to the inventory. Maybe in use, maybe operational is not operational, but it is available. I'm not using it, but still it is in the working condition, that's fine, but I'm not using it. And this says that it is a asset part, and this is asset and CI. Now you have to be remember that in the CMDB, there are three tables available which map the asset and the CI. Asset and CI field mapping, asset and CI operational status, and asset and CI hardware status. So from there you can correlate this part and you can understand. The point is that in the CSDM or in the data model, the main part is that if your data is wrong, if your data is messy, you are wasting your time, money, and effort. So that is the reason ServiceNow always emphasize, please be on your principles here. If it is not operational, let's remove it. And it is the responsibility of the configuration manager to make sure that the data should be updated all the time in the ServiceNow. Now, if I go to the next part, that is the logical life cycle. It says logical life cycle basically need to manage the overall life cycle of a logical asset. Logical means, if I say, which is not touchable, which is just installed, but I cannot see, like Microsoft Office. I cannot see, but I can use the application which is built on the Microsoft Office. So this is what the logical life cycle process has been started. The things are almost same, but here the design has been different and the stages are the different. It says product model is the same. In the purchase, it is applicable for the software asset. So we can say the above one is for the HAM, that is hardware asset, and below one, this is one we can say for the SAM, that is software asset management. I'm just linking it to understand. It doesn't mean that it is 100% work or correlated with that particular stuff there. So in this, we have a purchase, we have inventory, we have deploy, we have operational, and we have end of the life. And it is again saying this work on the CI and this work on all the 3 parts, 1, 2, and 3 work on the software asset CI as well. Then the last one, second last one is called the documentation. because documents are very much important for us, and here we are referring to the your contracts is the document here. Every contract has a life cycle. It start, it discussed, it designed, it signed off, it retired, or it's obsolete, it decommissioned, I can say. So what ServiceNow say is that number one, in this part only three things are there: ideation, operational, or end of the life. In the ideation, draft and under evaluation. You are building a contract, you are making this a draft. In the operational, it is published, it is used, and you as a service provider providing the services as per that contract, or I as a service receiver, I am taking the services as per the contract. And at the last, it is cancelled or expired. It is not retired, it's expired. So we have to be very careful on these terms as well. And the last one, that is the location lifecycle process. Now the question comes, Atul, we are using the location for a long time in ServiceNow, but we never know that this has a life cycle as well, because we are always getting a new location. We're not understanding, or we're not deleting that, or we are not making any action on the location which are not in the used. So this is what, because the location can be used for your dynamic CI groups as well. So we have to be very careful in that part. If you put garbage or obsolete location in the database, everything will be appear in that part of the groups as well if the condition has been matches. So under this says in the design we charted to the build, and then we have available, in use, or pending retirement, and the end of the life. So stage and status are available here. And now if we proceed further, is the common data. This is what and again I'm coming to my same point, that as I say, CSDM implementation is easy, but the consulting of CSDM is very, very complicated, because it is the game of the words and the theory only. So what ServiceNow recommend here, whenever you will be discussing about the data, I still remember in one of the interview when I was appearing, so one person that interview asked me, Atul, if you want to implement incident management for any of the customer, what are the steps you follow? And I started it there, that I said, okay, I'll discuss the as-is process, I'll show them the workflow, I'll show them the notification, SLA, and it's done. And if I agree, we can implement the same thing. Then that point of time, I was not aware there is a concept called the foundation data as well. And when after the interview, when it comes for the questions around, so I asked, okay, what is the answer of that? He says for any of the process, for any of the implementation, the foundation data is important. So logically, you should understand, you should ask the foundation data, user, group, location, and all the things should be there. Now the question comes, what are the questions we should discuss when we're talking about this common data, this foundation data, company, business unit, department? Number one part, because when you're implementing the ServiceNow for a client, this is always a complicated thing. Number one, do I have trusted source of this data? It means if any data which is coming in ServiceNow, what is the source of truth for this? Are these the trusted sources or not? Like if I say, okay, I'm bringing the data in ServiceNow via some XML, or let's say from the third-party tool, is that tool have a correct data? Can I have a faith on that part and build my logic on the top of that? Number one. Are there multiple sources? Yes, nowadays it can be possible. Maybe customers say, no, I want to update CI data via three ways. Number one, it can be manually added. Number two, it can be done via discovery. And number three, it can be done via some data sources. If there are the multiple sources, how you are going to be detect that part? Third, how often does the data changes? A very, 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 very crucial point in this part, because if your data is changing very frequently, then you have to be in little bit in the first, because maybe sometime your logic work, maybe sometime logic not work, because data is changing. So like take example, when I was working on a request management part, I configured a workflow and I said that this request item should go for the manager approval. For one case it worked, for second case it failed. I was really surprised that why it was not working today, even though it was working yesterday. Then we checked and we came to know that the user which I put for today's test, that does not have a manager. because data has been changed in the background. So this is the third point which we have to be take care. And believe me guys, I as a consultant, as a business process consultant, I put these questions upfront to the customer because I don't want to take any risk in the later on due to these questions are not answered in the proper manner. And also, if we are discussing, we can put this question on the risk as well. The data is changing very frequently. It is a risk for my logics or my implementation. Then, do I have a depth of data that my CI will require? That do I have that meaningful data or the minimum data which is required for my CI? And last, who is going to be maintain this data? Definitely, I am implementing as of now, so my work does not include that I have to maintain it. My work to build the logic on the basis of the data. But at last, who is going to be maintained? Do we have any team here? Do we have any person here? Maybe it's a process manager, process owner, configuration manager. Who is the person who is going to be taking responsibility on that particular part? And after discussing these questions, getting the answers, you can bring or we can bring these are the common data in the ServiceNow. Company, core company table, business unit is a business unit table, department, department, CM location, sys user group, and the sys user role. And also these are not the configuration item. Please again remember, if you are a beginner in ServiceNow, don't say these are the CIs. No, these are just a foundation data on the basis of which you are going to build your processes, your flows, and all the things will be there. And now, in the last of these particular things, ServiceNow put location data as one of the biggest part, because in the CMDB part, it is important that location should be tried for every CI. And they clearly say, often this data is riddled with the dirty data and difficult to maintain. I'm truly speaking on that part again from experience. Maybe in the system it's showing X location, maybe in the physical manner it is not on the X location. So these are the things very much important to understand. And ServiceNow added few more attributes to get your location data or location management properly in the Rome release. Number one, what they have introduced, source ID. Why? Because if you are getting the data from the multiple sources, maybe from integration, maybe third-party tool, maybe some other thing, so that you can put the data from which particular source it is coming. Later on, it is easy for you and me to check that, okay, this data is corrupted. It means if I found a source where the data is most corrupted or not as per the complete or correct, then I can put the correction place on that part. Then they added the location type as well. Location type means what type of location you are be fitting. It's a region, country, state, city, site, building, floor, and mainly these things has been used for the data center, but it's not only for the data center. Maybe I am a service provider who is maintaining the ATM machines on the different location. Then even though I need the building and the floor as well and the room as well details. So now you can govern, now you can put all this detail in the ServiceNow easily. Then manage by group. Who is going to govern this? This is again a new, has been introduced by ServiceNow. Then validation. Duplicate versus primary. So let me open my dev instance in the meantime and I'll show this part, that how ServiceNow give this thing. It is a very, very, very beautiful field ServiceNow giving, that if you are getting a data, let's say you are getting a location data from the multiple parts, then you can make it as a duplicate or the primary. It is a flag only with the name called the duplicate. It is not available on the form level. You can get it on the list view level and you can put that, but definitely you can bring that field on the form level as well. But yes, a good point to make sure that it is a duplicate or not. If it's a duplicate, then you can remove your data. But again, as of now, there is no mechanism that if two location coming from two different sources, can ServiceNow evaluate this, which is duplicate, which is primary? I have no guarantee on that, but it is a completely manual action you can do on that part. So let me go here and check our cmn underscore location dot list. Then the last is the life cycle, which we discussed just on the above part. So this is what ServiceNow has been introduced here. So now I can go here and let me add a duplicate as you can see here as a duplicate. Let me go here and I can find this part. So you can see duplicate is false. It means it is not duplicate, it's a primary. Let me see, do have a primary as well. Yes, you can see it's a primary location as well. It's again a flag you can put. So by this way we can manage and we can maintain our location data easily in the ServiceNow from the foundation data perspective. So with this we have completed our day 5 of the CM for the foundation domain specifically. If you like it, you get some knowledge, please like my video and share with your friends and teammates as well. Let's connect again in the next day or the 6th day video very soon. Thank you so much. Have a nice day, guys.